Hi, my name is Dina Fitraizza and today I will be your first presenter. Today's topic is supply chain management and managing supplier. Okay, first of all, what is supply chain? Supply chain means a network between a company and its supplier to produce and distribute a specific product to the final buyer. It involves raw material, supplier, manufacturer, distributor, retailer, and consumer. Basically, supply chain is an operational flow of your company to ensure that the product will arrive to the buyer on time. Let's move on to the next. How about supply chain? What is that? Supply chain management means is a management of a supply chain activities to maximize customer value and to achieve sustainable competitive advantage. It is also an effort by the firm to run and develop its own supply chain activities in the most efficient and effective way. There are 4 elements in SCM, which are integration, operation, purchasing, and distribution. First, for integration, a company needs to plan to get a long-term success. So they need to set up integration. Integration means that it's a process of technology that can coordinate supply chain function and elements. This can allow supply chain to get all the details of actions and interaction between that happening in the process. The 2 most important key in integration is data and its collection, so that the company can store its data collection and use it when they need it. Integration also help a company to coordinate the communication between all parties in order to ensure that they get the good results in the end. Next is operation. Operation is very important because it's involved day-to-day operation. So a manager will monitor operation in order to make sure that the process is right there, they are doing the process, and to ensure that they are not behind the shadows. During operation, the process also will constantly be evaluated in order to make sure that to get to know whether there is another way to produce a product effectively, so that they will not waste any time. Next, moving on to purchasing. Purchasing is important because when a company is selling a product, they need to, of course, there will be involving purchasing. So they need to make sure that they buy all of the materials needed to produce a product, and they also need to ensure that the product that the materials that they buy is in better quality or in a quality that they are expected. And lastly, SCM ends at distribution. Mostly company will use logistic software or logistic company in order to ensure that the product that they already processed, that they already created, arrive in the market on time, and also need to make sure that the demand of the product in the market will always be there, so that the customer will always have the options to buy their product instead of buying other competitors' product. How this elements can work together. These 4 elements need to work cohesively in order to bring benefit to all parties. Now, let's move on to what is the benefit of SCM. A company that use SCM will have great efficiency rate. Why? They will know and they can predict the demand of a product. For example, they know when is the right time to increase an output and when is the right time to decrease it, so that the demand will always be fulfilled in the market and will not overproduce a product. Next, to increase output. So to increase output, they need to make communication and coordination with suppliers, vendors, logistic and consumer better. Based on what I said before, the circles from raw material until the consumer, if the company knows and make the communication between all of the party in the circles and can monitor it, they will increase their output. Moving on to the next point is better cost management. It will make the company can improve their inventory system and improve their system responsiveness, so that when they use SCM, they know what is their stock level, is it low or high, so that if it's low, they need to produce more so that their stock level will not be zero, so that the demand in the market will always be there and their competitors won't sell their product and mark it up into expensive price. And the last point is no more delays, because SCM can help to mitigate any late shipments or late shipments from the suppliers or to the vendors, so that they will always monitoring in the management itself will do that, so that there will be no more delays from the raw materials to arrive to the company or the finished good to arrive to the consumer. That's all. Then let's move on to. Okay, now I will explain about limitation of SCM. First, SCM is very expensive to implement. Why? Because SCM needs a proper planning. When you need to do proper planning, you need to hire someone with a knowledge and experience, so that the process of hiring and recruiting someone is very costly to do. Next, SCM needs proper training and skills. When a worker or when the staff of the company doesn't get a proper training, SCM cannot be effective. As for example, in the factory nowadays, mostly people are using machines to handle or to manufacture products. So when the factory worker doesn't know how to handle the machine, it will causing the company to have low production level and can cause the supply chain management activities to be delaying in manufacture process. So it can cause the company to have low production level. And moving on to the last point is SCM are very vulnerable. Why? Due to the unexpected event, such as like nowadays situation, COVID-19. If a company have supplier from outside of the country, it will be a risk to them, as that the raw material cannot arrive to them exactly as it's supposed to be. There will be delays in air logistic or sea logistic, as COVID-19 makes most of the workers work from home, or a lot of workers are being retrenched from their work. I think that's all for SCM. I will pass to the next.
Thank you, Miss Dina. Assalamualaikum, my name is Muizzuddin Mutaza and I will present to you guys about how using technology to enhance supply chain management. In this modern day, the growing use of electronic commerce has had major impact on design of business process and accounting system. E-commerce is the conduct of business transaction using electronic media such as internet. It involves buying and selling goods and services on internet. It also includes exchange of data between organizations and any transaction that are conducted electronically. Next, e-commerce may create a linkage with supplier and customer who part of an organization supply chain. The term of B2B or business to business refer to e-commerce activity that take place between business and its supplier and customer. In case of supplier, this activity may include purchasing, supplier selection, and inventory management, while in case of customer, the activity may be ordering, review the product, and payment. This activity may lead to enhance communication and coordination across the supply chain between the organization and its supplier and customer, and within the organization itself. After that, business to business may utilize EDI or electronic data interchange. It means that direct linking part of organization computer system with the customer and supplier. For example, when wholesaler have computer link with its retail customer, it allow the wholesaler to track the daily sale activity and provide additional inventory when needed. While for retail customer, they can receive inventory as soon as they need without incur any costs such as ordering costs and time taken to process the purchase order. Now we go to the next. The term of B2C or business to consumer refer to e-commerce exchange between the business and its non-business customer. This area has increased and grown dramatically in recent years as customer has been exposed with online shopping and banking. The platform that has been used is Lazada and Shopee. In the latest pandemic COVID-19, the statistics show that 34% of Malaysian people bought a product at least 4 times a month. With the online shopping, customer can purchase and pay for the product, make sale inquiries, and receive customer support. Lastly, ERP or Enterprise Resources Planning System may assist an organization to achieve efficient supply chain management. The ERP system is a complex software package that supports information systems spanning many different function areas of an organization. Thus, areas as diverse as account payable, account receivable, inventory management, and general ledger may integrate within ERP system. Example of popular ERP system is SAP software and Oracle. ERP system is very expensive to implement and more suited to larger organization. ERP system also may include e-commerce capability to allow supplier and customer to engage in online transaction and to gain access to relevant data. Now, we will compare the typical manual process and EDI or electronic data interchange process. For this slide, the first step in manual process is buyer will generate purchase order based on the demand needed. Then, the buyer will fax or mail the purchase order to the supplier. Once the supplier receives the purchase order, they will fill in the internal system to get the invoice. After that, the supplier have to mail back to the invoice to the buyer. The buyer will put the invoice in the internal system for processing. As we can see that the process takes a longer time and require many steps to make sure the buyer receive the invoice. With EDI process, it will be easier for buyer and supplier to do a transaction since they have linked their computer to each other. It will save their cost and time. That's all from me. Thank you, and now I will pass to the next presentation.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Haikal Hafiz. Today, me and my partner will talk about managing supplier. Since purchase materials and components will give greater effect to the cost of producing a product, therefore an organization should carefully manage their supplier. Thus, 5 ways for managing supplier are: first is the relationship with supplier, second, selecting supplier, third, analyzing supplier costs, fourth is calculating the total cost of ownership, and lastly, the fifth way is by evaluating supplier performance. Want to know more? What's that all about? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, first, I will explain about the relationship with supplier. Collaborative relationship with supplier can help to minimize supplier and inventory related costs. Ways to minimize it by minimizes price volatility. If increase of volatility of commodity prices can affect the product prices in the market. Therefore, by adopting principle of supplier relationship management, organization can minimize price volatility impact by taking advantage of fixed pricing or scale increases in exchange for long-term contract or minimum order level. Thus, this will directly or indirectly minimize the supplier and inventory related costs. Next, relationship with supplier help to improve production lead time. Production lead time or cycle time is the period from when an order enters the manufacturing department to when the finished product are ready for delivery. Ways to improve production lead time are increase its efficiency. For example, this relationship improve communication. Thus, supplier gain more understanding of the business they serve. Therefore, delays in the supply chain will decrease and flow of operation will greatly improve. Second ways to improve production lead time is consolidation of supply chain. As both supplier and buyers have understand the inner working of each other, both parties will be able to adapt their own working practices and operation to better accommodate the others and can lead to further operational advantage. Third ways to improve production lead time is by outsourcing certain activities. Since relationship with supplier create trusting partnership, this may result in many key activities being transferred to the supplier. This may include entrusting supplier with the management of inventory and some element of customer services. Lastly, the relationship with supplier can help to enhance manufactured product quality. Long-term relationship with supplier allows free flow of feedback and ideas. Thus, this enable continual improvement of operation. The areas of product development, instigating new ordering process, and inventory control can become a joint venture. Therefore, it can help to enhance in manufacturing product quality. Okay, in this slide, it shows that when two or more companies want to have relationship, they can form a strategic alliance. Strategic alliance is a formal agreement between two or more organizations to share resources in order to achieve common objectives. The objective may include joint product development, outsourcing information technology or distribution services, the introduction of quality manufacturing practices in supplier, and joint construction project. That's all for the relationship with supplier. Let's go to the next slide. Hello guys! The second way to manage supplier is by carefully selecting supplier. This will lead to cost reduction and improve financial performance for the firm. Selecting supplier not only choose a supplier that offered a low price, but there are certain criteria have to be considered. First criteria is the reliability. For example, choosing supplier who can supply specific quality material and meeting the delivery schedule. Second criteria is an efficient supplier. Means supplier action will not create unnecessary cost to the firm. For example, if the supplier not efficient, the supply of raw material may be low quality and bring damage to the manufacturing equipment. Thus, firm need to incur cost to repair the equipment, paid overtime wages to make up for the lost production times, and loss of sale cost of late of completion product. Third criteria is supplier performance. Supplier with good history performance will give significant impact to manufacturing activities. Since selecting supplier is costly, most organizations will enter into formal contract which have certain length of time. For example, a contract expires after 2 years. These methods are usually referred as preferred supplier. Other than costing, this long-term agreement allows organization to assess the ongoing performance in order to continue with the supplier at the end of the contract or not. Lastly, other criteria to be considered are price of raw material, communication system between supplier and organization, and geographical location in order to avoid high delivery cost of raw material. That's all. Let's go to the next slide. Next ways to manage supplier is by analyzing the supplier cost. Supplier cost is also known as a total cost of ownership, which is the cost associated with dealing a particular supplier, including the purchase price of material and a range of costs that are triggered by the purchase activity of. They include first, cost of purchasing, that are cost of material, cost of ordering inventory, delivery cost, receiving cost, and inspection cost. Second is cost of holding inventory. It is a carrying cost, which is include storage cost, insurance, obsolescence, and opportunity cost. Third is cost of poor quality, which is may include cost of rework, scrap, returning defective material, and downtime cost by using low quality material. Lastly, the fourth cost is cost delivery failure. It may include cost triggered by the late or early delivery supplier, expediting costs, additional labor costs, downtime due to late delivery, and lost contribution margin from loss of sale due to failed delivery. That's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Okay, hello guys. My name is Muhammad Riduan, and I will tell you about how to calculate the cost of ownership. So there are three level of activities that we need to consider when calculating the cost of ownership. So the first level is the unit level activities. These activities are additional activities that occur as a result of problems related to faulty quality or late delivery of material by a particular supplier. Example of additional activities that occur is reworking of product due to poor quality material. So the second level is the order level activities. So the order level activities will trigger each time an order is placed with a particular supplier. For example, placing purchase order, receiving and inspecting order. So the third level of activities is the supplier level activities. So these activities are incurred over the course of supplier contract. So the example of these activities is undertaking a quality audit to evaluate the supplier.
So this is the example of calculation to calculate the total cost of ownership per unit. We take a look at supplier A and supplier B. We can clearly see that the purchase price per unit for supplier B, RM RM2.50, is higher than supplier A, RM2. We can also see that the total supplier activity cost of supplier A is higher than supplier B. After adding the purchase price per unit and total supplier cost per unit, we can find out that the total cost of ownership per unit of supplier A is actually higher than supplier B, even though the purchase price per unit of supplier A is lower.
So how to evaluate the supplier performance? So the supplier cost can form the basis for evaluating supplier performance. For example, we can use the supplier performance index. So this is the formula of supplier performance index. To calculate the supplier performance index, we need to take the total supplier activity cost and divide it with the total purchase price. As we can see, the index for supplier B is lower than supplier A. So this proves that the supplier B is more cost effective than supplier A. So for the supplier performance, it can be measured with 5 criteria, that is delivery, quality, cost, organizational change, and relationship. For delivery, it can be measured by the percentage of orders delivered on time and average lead time for deliveries. So for quality, the criteria can be measured by analyzing the percentage of orders rejected or achievement of quality certification. So for cost, it can be measured by the percentage reduction in price material supply. So for the relationship criteria, it can be measured by making supplier certification survey. So the numbers of disputes between suppliers and the organization can be resolved within 7 days. It can also be measured by the numbers of days of downtime due to industrial action. So the last criteria is the organizational change. It can be measured by implementation of team structures and adoption of EDI system.
Okay guys, thanks for watching our video. Bye.